What's up my friends? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're gonna make Negronis, yes, with an S, because Negroni week is knocking at the door. If you don't know what Negroni week is, well, it's literally a week of the year where we get to drink countless riffs on our beloved Negroni to raise money for the good cause. And it's worldwide, so you're gonna see that popping pretty much everywhere at your favorite bars and restaurants, and this year it's happening between the 12th and 18th of September. So right now we're about 2 weeks ahead of time, and to warm you up, we've teamed up with Empress 1908 Gin to share with you 7 of our favorite riffs on the Negroni for the 7 days of the week. I am pretty sure if you clicked on this thumbnail, you already know what the Negroni is, but just to make sure everyone's at the same page, let's just take 1 minute to say what the Negroni is and where it comes from. The cocktail was created in 1919 at the Caffè Cassoni in Florence, Italy. Back then, the Americano cocktail was already pretty popular, and it consisted in Campari, sweet vermouth topped with soda water. Apparently, that year, a guy by the name of Count Emilio Negroni went to the bar and asked for a stronger Americano, using gin instead of soda water. And it worked out pretty well. The bartender named the cocktail after his client, and today it is still one of the most popular cocktails of all time. And all you have to do to make one is to mix equal parts of gin, Campari, and sweet vermouth together, stir that over ice, and garnish it with an orange zest. This is the perfect balance between strength, sweetness, and bitterness. And now that I'm sure that everyone's watching know what a Negroni is and how to mix one, let's play with it, and let's start with the Tunnel Negroni. This is probably one of the first riffs on the Negroni. It was created 10 years after the Negroni in 1929 in Paris, and it uses dry vermouth instead of sweet vermouth and a little bit of Amaro to bring back that sweetness. Originally, the recipe called for Amaro Cora, which I believe is no longer around anymore, so it's kind of standard now to use whatever Amaro that you have and you like to make the Tunnel Negroni. I personally really like lighter style Amaro in this cocktail, like Milady for example is probably the one that I like the most. But when I don't have it, you know what I do? I simply grab my bottle of sweet vermouth and I use that instead, and it makes a killer Tunnel Negroni. So you do you, Amaro, sweet vermouth, the choice is yours, and that's what's fun with this one. You can really experiment, make several different tunnels. All you have to do is to keep the same specs, but for the sweeter part, the Amaro, you just use whatever you have on hand, and usually it works really nicely. So to make it, you're gonna start with 1 ounce of Empress Gin, 1 ounce of dry vermouth, 2/3 of an ounce of Campari, and 1/3 of an ounce of sweet vermouth or Amaro. You're gonna fill your mixing glass with ice and stir it for about 60 revolutions. Pour that over a big cube of clear ice and garnish it with a grapefruit zest. This is a great alternative if you have a drier palate. Sometimes a Negroni can feel sweet a little bit, even though it is perfectly balanced by the bitterness, but here we have a lighter and brighter version that still has everything that you want from a Negroni. Strength, bitter, and herbal, it really hits the spot. Now for the second Negroni of the day, we're gonna make one of mine. We're gonna make the split nuts. For this one, I'm using a template I love to use when I make a riff on the Negroni. I keep the same ratios of 1 part gin, 1 part Campari, and 1 part fortified wine. But here, for the fortified wine, I do a split base of sweet vermouth and something else. In this recipe, I'm using Crema Mandorla, which is an Italian aperitif made out of Marsala wine flavored with almond. So you're gonna have a Negroni that tastes a little bit like Amaretto without the extra sweetness. It is fantastic. So in a mixing glass, you're gonna pour 1 ounce of Empress Gin, 1 ounce of Campari, half an ounce of Cocchi Di Torino sweet vermouth, and half an ounce of Crema Mandorla. You're gonna fill your mixing glass with ice and stir it for about 60 revolutions. Pour that over ice and garnish it with an orange zest. This is the perfect Negroni for a nightcap. It's almost like a dessert, and it tastes like a bitter bar of marzipan. So if you like almonds, if you love Negronis, this is the best of both worlds. Now for the third Negroni, we're gonna make something a little bit different. This one was a nightcap. The next one is more like a pick-me-up. We're gonna make the Cold Brew Negroni. I had to include a coffee Negroni in that compilation because no matter how you include coffee in a Negroni, it's always a delight. There are several different ways to make it, and today we're gonna keep it simple, no fancy infusions. All we're gonna do is to add a little bit of cold brew in the recipe. If you never made cold brew before, well, let me tell you this, you're missing out, my friend, because it is extremely tasty and there's nothing more simple to make than a batch of cold brew coffee. It's literally just like taking coffee grounds, pouring some water over it, and wait overnight. That's it. I'm gonna give you my favorite recipe in the description, but for real, don't be scared and start making cold brew yourself. You will not regret this. For the cold brew Negroni now, all you have to do is to pour 1 ounce of impressed gin in a mixing glass, 1 ounce of sweet vermouth, 2/3 of an ounce of Campari, and 1/3 of an ounce of cold brew. Fill the mixing glass with ice and stir it until properly chilled and diluted, and pour it over a big block of clear ice. This one needs no garnish, it's already very fragrant as is, so there you go. This is how we make the Cold Brew Negroni. There's something with that mix of flavor that is just magical. I can't tell you what it is exactly, but it just works. And if you love Negronis, that also means that you love bitterness, so I am pretty sure that you will really appreciate that extra kick of bitterness coming from the cold brew coffee. I highly recommend it. And now for the fourth Negroni of the day, we're gonna make one that I created especially to match the flavor profile of today's sponsored Empress 1908. Empress is one of my favorite gin. I've been using it for years now. You saw me using it several times on the channel, and that's because aside its beautiful color, it's also packed with delicious flavors. It is a small batch copper pot distilled gin made out of 8 different botanicals, and it's inspired by the high tea service of the Empress Hotel in Victoria. So it is a very versatile gin with beautiful juniper flavor, but it also has kind of a light aspect to it because of the grapefruit peel and the rose petals. Then the tea blend used to make the gin provides a mix of earthy, floral, and herbal notes that really is the unique signature of Empress. So I made a Negroni with Earl Grey infused sweet vermouth to boost those tea flavors and highlight the botanicals of the Empress. The infusion is very simple. I'm gonna give you the quantity in the description below, but basically it's just a small amount of Earl Grey steeped for 2 hours in a certain amount of sweet vermouth. Very simple. So to make the cocktail, you're gonna pour in a mixing glass 1 ounce or 30 ml of Empress gin, 1 ounce or 30 ml of Campari, and 1 ounce or 30 ml of Earl Grey Sweet Vermouth. You're gonna fill your mixing glass with ice, stir it for about 60 revolutions, and strain it over a big block of clear ice. And for the garnish, we're gonna express a grapefruit peel. This is a very subtle riff on the classic Negroni. It's actually the exact same thing, but we add just a little extra layer of flavor because of the Earl Grey that goes so well with the botanicals of the Empress. We have some tannins from the tea, but also some light citrus and floral notes because there is bergamot infused in the Earl Grey tea. So it makes it a little bit lighter while keeping its full body, and the grapefruit peel instead of orange makes it brighter and fresh. I really love this one. And before we make the fifth Negroni today, if you want to know more about Empress, they have a beautiful website with amazing cocktail recipes, so make sure to pay them a visit. I'm gonna link it in the description down below. So now, the next one, the tone curve. So here with this one, once again, I wanted to highlight the botanicals of the Empress, but I wanted to keep its beautiful color. So I transformed a sweet liqueur into a bitter one and made this delicious, unique Negroni riff. So in a mixing glass, you're gonna start with 1 ounce or 30 ml of Empress gin, 2/3 of an ounce or 20 ml of dry vermouth, 1/3 of an ounce or 10 ml of Bianco vermouth, and 1 ounce or 30 ml of gentian infused bergamot liqueur. Then, like the other ones, you're gonna fill your mixing glass with ice and stir it until properly chilled and diluted, and strain it over a beautiful block of clear ice. You're gonna express a grapefruit zest on top of the cocktail, and this is how I make the tone curve Negroni. This one is completely different. The color, the flavor spectrum, it's on a whole new level. The bergamot liqueur really awakes the piney flavor of the juniper in the gin, but at the same time it's very bright and citrus forward, and I really like it. Then the gentian infusion boosts that bitterness and evokes that Negroni vibe for a delicious and very surprising Negroni riff. If you want to know how to make the gentian infused bergamot liqueur, it's very simple. 2 grams of gentian roots with 6 ounces or 180 ml of bergamot liqueur, and you steep that, infuse that for 2 hours, strain it, and you're good to go. So now if you're ready, let's jump into the next one. We're gonna make a Negroni frappé. Cocktail riffs can get a little wild, I agree, and it's even far-fetched sometimes to call something a riff on a cocktail when it's very far from the original version. Like if we add fruit juice to a Negroni, if we shake it and serve it over crushed ice, are we still allowed to call this a riff on a Negroni? I say yes, and we're gonna do it today. And to do it, we're gonna start in a cocktail shaker with 1 ounce or 30 ml of Empress gin, 1 ounce or 30 ml of Campari, 1 ounce or 30 ml of Amaro Montenegro, and 1 ounce or 30 ml of freshly squeezed grapefruit juice. We're gonna fill the shaker with ice and shake it for about 10 seconds and strain that over crushed ice. Then we're gonna garnish it with orange zest, and this is what I like to call the Negroni frappé. Cheers. Oh, this is refreshing. It's a poolside Negroni. There's no better ways to describe this. It is bitter, juicy, fresh, delicious. I love it. There's also plenty different ways to make this. You can use orange juice instead of grapefruit, go back to sweet vermouth instead of Amaro. You can use Amaro instead of Campari and keep the sweet vermouth. There's a lot of different ways to make a Negroni frappe, and most of them are delicious. You can also make this frozen if you want. I've made a video earlier this year about this. I'm gonna link it up here. Now for the last Negroni of the day, last but not least. That's gonna be a bold statement, but I think I can say this is the best Negroni riff I've had ever. Let's make the high and dry. This one was created by Caitlin Stewart. If you don't know who she is, well, she was just once named the best bartender in the world. Yep. In 2017, she won the Global World Class Cocktail Competition, which is literally the Bartender's Olympic. That year, I also participated to the World Class alongside Caitlin because we're both Canadians. So obviously she beat me. That was at the Canadian finals. I was sad that day, I must say, but when she won the Globals a few months after, I was very happy for her and also kind of proud to say that I was once beaten by the best bartender in the world. Maybe I should put that in my resume. What do you think? I don't know, maybe not. But anyways, that being said, this cocktail is extremely tasty. And even though it is a world-class cocktail, it is super simple to make. So everyone can do it, and believe me, you should give it a try. So you're gonna start in a mixing glass by pouring 1 ounce or 30 mils of gin, 1 ounce or 30 mils of Campari, 1 ounce or 30 mils of elderflower liqueur, and 2 dash of orange blossom water. You're gonna fill your mixing glass with ice and stir it for about 60 revolutions and strain it over a big block of clear ice. Then you're gonna top it with Prosecco or dry sparkling wine and garnish it with a grapefruit wedge. You may look at the specs of this one and tell to yourself that this is going to be too sweet, but it's not the case. The extra sweetness of the elderflower liqueur is perfectly balanced by the dryness of the Prosecco. It's also so bright and floral. I'm sure this is the perfect Negroni for anyone who's afraid of it, and at the same time, I'm sure everyone who loves the classic will love this one as well. So my friends, this wraps things up for my Negroni compilation for the upcoming Negroni week. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments down below which one was your favorite, and before you go, don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you're not already. Hit that notification bell if you want to make sure not to miss the next one. Until then, thank you very much again, have a great day, and see you very soon. Cheers.